I'll let you know before it happens, but it's going to happen.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you're going to download this podcast, it's going to be free, and I'm always going to appreciate your support. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers, you can place a $5 bet, and you're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. If you're an everyday listener of the show, and you should be, in fact, if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor, become a subscriber. It's quick, it's easy, it's free. Click that red subscribe button, smash that thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that bell notification button. That way you're not going to miss an episode, and you will be up to date like the rest of my everyday users. So I've been really bearish on Julian Lewis, Juju Lewis, signing with the rest of USC's 2025 recruiting class. This has been going on for a while. I'm not, just jumping on the bandwagon about this. I've been one of the more outspoken pundits, members of the media, actually willing to talk about this. It started back in the spring. That's when I saw Husan Longstreet, local product, stud quarterback, Corona Centennial High School out there in the Inland Empire. He showed up for a 5 a.m. spring practice. Okay. Showed up at USC's campus. 5 a.m. spring practice. And he was already getting ready to commit to Texas A&M a couple days later. You knew something was up, right? So despite that commitment that he made to College Station and Julian Lewis being committed to USC since August of last year, 2023, USC's coaches, Luke Heward, the quarterback coach, head coach Lincoln Riley, they've kept those lines of communication open. They've stayed in contact with the local signal caller from Centennial. And if you were listening or watching yesterday's episode of Locked On USC, I said, it was at the end of the show, it was kind of a little nugget there. Make sure you I was teasing you. Make sure you tuned into this episode. I said, do not anticipate Juju signing with the class. Well, today, I got confirmation. I got all the confirmation I needed. A couple different sources. Is it a coincidence? I don't think so. Last week, it was announced that Jayden Maiava was going to replace Miller Moss as USC's starting quarterback this weekend against Nebraska. And that's when I started to hear from different sources. This particular source said that Longstreet was on campus before Jayden was named the starter this upcoming week. In fact, that was Husan's third time on campus, on USC's campus, since he committed to Texas A&M. That's a lot. That's a lot for a quarterback who's committed to another school to continue visiting a local school 3 times. There's obviously some interest there, right? So at this point, it's not if it happens, it's when it happens. When is Julian going to decommit? When is Husan going to decommit from Texas A&M and commit to USC? I'll tell you, look, you know how I feel about this. I think Lincoln Riley he's gotten tired of Julian Lewis constantly flirting with Colorado, constantly saying, I'm going to take a trip to Indiana. The trips to Indiana never materialized, but the stuff with Colorado, it's gotten kind of serious. And I know I've got a lot of Colorado Buffalo fans who listen to this show daily saying, oh, he's coming to Colorado. Guess what? I've been talking about this since the spring. You're not giving me any new news. No new information here. Trust me. And then my sources were confirmed, and I started feeling really good about this when I saw Steve Wiltfong and Chad Simmons from On3. They went ahead and put Julian on Flip Watch. Quote, for Lewis and his camp, it has always been about seeing the field. This is according to Chad Simmons. That has been no secret. He does not want to sit and wait, and Deion Sanders and the staff has shown him a path to compete for playing time right away. There's buzz around Colorado, and it is real, end quote. Well, yeah, the path is Shedeur Sanders is graduating. He's going off to the NFL. There's your path. Pretty clear, open playing time. It's not, you don't get that at USC. So I get it. He wants the best shot to start as a true freshman. Great. Boulder's a great place to go. I'll say this as well. I don't think Juju finishes his career in Boulder if that's where he's ending up. Back to the coincidence. Once Coach Riley went to Jayden Maiava as the starter, it put a younger quarterback at the front of the line. And I'm talking about spring camp next year. So I'm not sure if Juju and his camp, if they want that competition. So number one, Jayden is younger than Miller Moss. He's obviously older than Juju Lewis. He's more mobile than Miller Moss, and I think he's also more mobile than Julian. And as far as arm strength is concerned, mock Knicks. Jayden has a very strong arm. Julian's got a strong arm. It's not going to make, that's not the deciding factor here. If Jayden has a strong final 3 games for USC, that makes life harder for Juju coming this spring. I just don't think he wants to gamble on that. He would rather have a more clear opportunity to start as a true freshman, and I think you get that in Colorado as opposed to USC. And, let's just look at it bigger picture. I think Longstreet might be a better fit for Lincoln Riley and for the USC program in general. I think he has a higher ceiling than Juju. Juju might be ready to start now, but as far as who has a higher ceiling, who can be developed more, I think it's Husan. And I think it works out better for everybody as well. Assuming Maiava is going to start these final 3 regular season games as well as the bowl game, he's going to come into the spring as the leader of the club in the clubhouse to be the starter in 2025. That's fine. Assuming Miller Moss has moved on, now you've got Longstreet who can learn the system for a year. In 2025, Jayden will be a redshirt junior. And then you've got Ryder Lyons, who is anticipated to be USC's quarterback in the class of 2026. And he's not going to show up until 2027 because he's taken his 1-year LDS mission. So everything lines up better. Look, and I'm more than fine with this. More than fine. Like I said, I can go back to the spring. I can go back to the summer. I saw all I needed to see from Juju at the Elite 11 finals. Look, he's a fine young man. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's a jerk. But I kind of got the impression that he's too much into himself. And the people who are leading his recruitment, i.e. his father, just too much about Juju Lewis and not enough about the team he's going to help. And let's be honest here, Husan Longstreet, he had a better Elite 11 finals. He actually beat out Juju. I've been keeping you guys updated on this scenario going back to spring. Remember, 5 a.m. spring practice. What the heck is he doing here? So I came on here, I talked about it, wrote about it over there on WeRC.com. You want to get the lowdown, get some more nuggets? When you're done making this episode of Locked on USC, your first listen, get on over there to WeRC.com. Scott Schrader's got a couple of nice little stories going about it. Look, I talked about it in the spring. I've been getting private updates throughout the summer and through the season. I'm keeping you updated. Right now, I'm at the point where I need to, start a pool and pick which day in November does this actually happen. I've been one of the few saying that I wasn't confident with Juju signing with USC. The whole saga. And this is why you watch Locked on USC every day. So you're going to be the first to know. You're going to be the first to find out when there's if there's smoke, I'll tell you if there's some fire. I've been telling you about this smoke going back to the spring. All right, be back with it. We got another segment coming up. We're gonna talk about Coach John Robinson. If you haven't heard, USC lost a legend. USC fans, listen up. You need to download the Roy app. You've heard us talk about Roy this season and how they're revolutionizing the NIL industry. Roy allows you, the fan, to have a say in who gets the NIL money. And here's what I absolutely love about Roy. You get your money back if that player transfers. Roy is helping us keep our team intact, and it's actually good for the game long term. Remember when Makai Lemon went ham all over Rutgers a few weeks ago? I do. He finished with 256 all-purpose yards, 134 receiving, 122 returning. You can show your support for players like Makai Lemon by depositing just a little appreciation into that player's account. To do that, download the Roy app. You can see what the logo looks like if you're watching on YouTube. See it right there on the ad. Or go to joinroy.com. USC is coming off a bye week. So let's pick another player who we want to spotlight. How about Zachariah Branch, Jacoby Lane, Deuce Robinson? Which one of those guys do you think is going to have a big game? Who do you want to contribute to? Every contribution counts. 10, 20 bucks, whatever. It doesn't matter. It all adds up. And it's going to help your favorite players stay put. Download the Roy app or go to joinroy.com today. Use the promo code Locked On. Every athlete from every team is in there. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Go to joinroy.com for full terms. Roy, support the players, change the game. So, doing this episode with a little bit of a heavy heart. USC lost a legend on Monday. You're watching this episode of Locked on USC first thing Tuesday. John Robinson passed away. Robo Coach, Coach John Robinson, legend, passed away, 89 years old. Complications from pneumonia. He was at home in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Yeah, Coach Robo, he won a national championship at USC. Coached 2 Heisman winners, Charles White, Marcus Allen, multiple Rose Bowls. In fact, Coach Robo, 4-0 in his Rose Bowl appearances. He is going to be one of the best that has ever walked the sidelines at USC. Always had those arms crossed, that wry smile. You knew what he was thinking. You knew what was coming. Didn't matter. He was a good coach. He coached at USC. He had two stints at USC. In between, he coached for the LA Rams. He also coached UNLV. When he took over the USC program, he took over when John McKay, he took over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They were an expansion team. The NFL came for John McKay. They said, you know what? USC knows how to put together rosters. They know how to develop NFL players. Let's go get John McKay. He turned the program over to John Robinson. He did a pretty good job. I mean, he led the Trojans to the 1978 national championship. He made it to 8 bowl games. I'm just going to read off some stats here. He won 74% of his games. He was 104 wins, 35 losses, 4 ties. That was during both of his stints at USC. From 1976 to 1982. That was his heyday. And then he was at USC from 1993 through 1997. In fact, those 104 victories, still more than any coach at USC except for John McKay and Howard Jones. Those are 2 legendary football coaches at USC. Howard Jones won USC's first national championship way back in 1928. And as I mentioned, Coach Robinson, 4-0 in the Rose Bowl. He won 5 Pac-10 championships. The quarterback for that national championship team, Paul McDonald, this is what he was quoted as saying after he learned of Coach Robinson's passing. Quote, "It's a sad day for the Trojan family. A legend is gone and he will be missed. I remember my first team meeting under Coach Robinson during training camp. He wrote our goals on the board. Beat UCLA, beat Notre Dame, win the Rose Bowl, win a national championship. My initial reaction was, whoa, the bar is very high here." Coach Robinson was very demanding, but in a human way. He had great interpersonal skills, and he knew how to connect with people. He made you want to play hard for him and to run through walls. You cared for him because he cared so much for you. End quote. It says a lot right there. That says a lot. Number one, the standard at USC. The standard is always the standard. Win the conference championship, make it to the Rose Bowl, win a national championship. I know the dynamics have changed a little bit now with the playoff system. Nevertheless, those are still the standards. What about Anthony Munoz, offensive lineman who played at USC under John Robinson? When I think about John Robinson, I think about the impact he had on us, not only as football players, but as individuals. I think about the things I learned at USC, how to prepare, how to compete. Those are things you need, not just in football, but also in life. Those are true life lessons that were taught to us under John Robinson, end quote. You always hear about, former players talk about their former head coaches. They talk about them in reverence, like they were a father figure. I wonder how long that type of sentiment is going to continue with the way the transfer portal has affected the game today. So when I read these types of quotes and I think back over the years, I wonder if that dynamic is going to be able to stick around. I think for the most part it will, but with players changing teams so frequently, I don't know if they'll ever have that bond, that connection that players talk about that they used to have with their head coaches back in the day. When Coach Robo was coaching USC, I was just becoming a hardcore rabid USC fan. I mean, Coach McKay was my first coach. Ricky Bell, the Trojan horse, Frank Jordan kicking the winning field goal. But yeah, when Coach Robinson was in charge, that's when my fandom really became oofta, rabid. Did not like missing a game on TV or in person. I mean, think about it. That's when you had Charles White, Marcus Allen. Those are two of the best running backs who have ever played, not just at USC, but played the game ever. Then he went to the Rams, led them to the playoffs, it seemed like every year. Couldn't get by the Cowboys or the Vikings, but whatever. Then he came back to USC. It wasn't the same as his first go around, but you know what? I still remember that Rose Bowl win against Northwestern with Keyshawn. That was a fun game. Everybody was rooting for Northwestern in that game. It was truly a David versus Goliath type of Rose Bowl. But Coach, he had the team ready. He had them ready for Northwestern. And then obviously the end of his second tenure, it didn't end the way everybody would have liked. It was just bad. I mean, look, Coach didn't make it easy, but still, I don't think Mike Garrett should have been leaving a pink slip message on the answering machine. Figure it out, guys. Should have. I don't care if you got to go sit in front of his house. You do not do that. It's not how you fire a coach. The only thing worse than that was what they did to Lane Kiffin. Anyways. So after that, there was, obviously Coach Robo felt a little disrespected. He was kind of pushed away from the program, the Trojan family. He ended up hanging out with Coach Orgeron, Baton Rouge, with the LSU program. He was a consultant on that 2019 national championship team. He really liked Coach O. Those two, yeah, they got along really well. Coach Riley had this statement. He said he talked about this on the Trojans live radio show following practice on Monday. Quote, "It's a tough day. One of the greatest things at our university and our football program is honoring all of the greats that have come before, the coaches, the players, and everyone that has made this place special. Days like this are especially tough, but we can remember all the memories and incredible accomplishments that Coach Robinson was a part of here at USC. From our entire football family, we want to offer his family condolences and let them know that we appreciate Coach and he will forever be a huge part of USC football." End quote. Yes, I'm getting a little choked up. I apologize. But yeah, he was a big part of my life. I grew up watching him. So one thing you always knew about Coach, he loved to run the football. Again, you got guys like Charles White, Marcus Allen. It's easy to understand why you love to run the football. He was a good coach. Like I said, he did what he did at USC. He led the Rams to the playoffs, it seemed like every year. He even took UNLV, turned them around, got them to a bowl game. Coach Robinson knew how to develop players, teams, locker room culture, that camaraderie. There's not too many Coach Robinsons in the world today. And we're down one. Hey, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers, if you bet $5, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on for the NFL, all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game and you want to check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, you can do that and so much more on the same page where you're placing your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com. Join today. You're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, we're going to do some positive predictions. I know sometimes especially when USC isn't having a great season, I tend to be a little cynical, look at the opposite side of the good. I'm going to focus on the positive for this last segment. This upcoming game against Nebraska. Jayden Maiava, we know he's going to be starting. He's going to get his chance to be USC's QB1. They take on Nebraska Saturday, 1 o'clock in the Coliseum. Be there. So why I do anticipate Jayden making a mistake or two, you should as well. I also think he's going to have a really good game statistically. We recorded the Inside the Trojan Huddle show earlier today, and I said on that show that I got I got Jayden throwing for 250 yards or more in this game, and I also have him running for another 50 yards. What makes that a positive prediction? Nebraska gives up 200 yards through the air per game. They're one of the better running defenses in the country. They only give up 79 yards per game. Excuse me, 102 yards. They're good. So I've got Jayden throwing for 250, running for 50, 2 passing touchdowns, 1 running touchdown, 1 interception, and he's going to have a couple more of those. Oh, phew. The other guy dropped it. There's going to be a couple of moments where you're going, you say, don't throw that, but he did. Anyways, as long as USC wins, that's going to be a good first impression by the redshirt sophomore. 250 throwing, 50 running, 300 yards combined. I'll take that. 2 touchdowns and an interception and a win. I'll take that even more. So, as I mentioned, Nebraska is really good against the run. They only give up 102 yards per game. This would be a great game I want Lincoln Riley to kind of channel his inner John Robinson. Lean into the run game, especially if it's picking up yards. I want to see Woody Marks bust through that 1,000-yard barrier in this game. In this game. He needs 122 yards to get there. I'm going to make the prediction he gets there and he's going to have 5 yards to spare. So the end of game number 10, Woody Marks will have 1,005 yards rushing. And he'll have 2 more games against UCLA and Notre Dame to pad those stats. You know what they say, a broken clock is correct twice a day? Well, this clock is going to be right. Again, Zachariah Branch. I think he's going to have 2 good games in a row. Will he get 100 yards receiving again? I don't know. I just think he's going to build off the momentum he had last week. I get it. They lost 2 weeks ago. But it's time for Zachariah to continue to develop, build off of any momentum he has, carry that over game to game. This Nebraska Cornhuskers team, good defensively. They're not like the black shirts I grew up watching, but they're good. I mean, they're getting there. They don't give up a lot scoring. I mean, 19 points per game. Really good. And just how good is that? USC only allows 22 points per game. I can't believe I just said USC gives up 22 points a game and they still have 5 losses. Can you believe that? I've said this before, but if I told you at the beginning of the year USC is only giving up 22 points per game, and I said, what's USC's record? You'd say undefeated because their offense is going to score. I mean, if they had scored 30 points in every game, save for that Penn State game, they're 8-1. Crazy. It's crazy how the season's played out. Anyways, if USC offensively gets 400 yards, they're going to win this game. In fact, I got them winning 30-21. Ooh, here's an interesting stat. So Nebraska's only kicked off 42 times this year. They don't score a lot. I told you on yesterday's episode of Locked on USC. I think in their last 4 games, they're averaging 14 points per game. But in those 42 kickoffs, only 19 touchbacks. What makes this a really interesting stat is they're only allowing 19 yards per kickoff return. I'm wondering, can Mekhi Lemon set one up in this game? He's come close these last couple of games. Ever since he took over as kickoff returner, he's gotten close. If Nebraska is going to kick it short, to the 5-yard line, between the goal line and the 5, that's prime return area. What do you think? Can Mekhi do it? He has an 80-yard return. Not all the way. Almost got there. Can he make it happen? All right. That's how we're going to end the show. Positively. Got you some really good recruiting information. More quarterback news. It's not going to be Juju Lewis. It's going to be Jayden Maiava. It's going to be Husan Longstreet. Well, who's going to be the 3rd quarterback? Jake Jensen? Gage Roy? Does Lincoln Riley go into the transfer portal? I'll keep you updated. If I hear anything new, you know where to find me, right here on Locked on USC. When you're done making Locked on USC your first listen every day, don't forget, wearesc.com. They've got that special going. Pay $1 for a week. Premium content. After that, 50% off for an entire year. And don't forget about Locked on College Football. They'll tell you about everything that's going on in the world of college football right now. I know USC isn't part of the postseason, at least yet. But if you're interested in everybody else, Spencer McLaughlin, host of Locked on College Football, he'll be your Sherpa. He'll carry you across the goal line. All right. Till that next episode, everyone, you know what to do.